After the Allied forces were able to defeat the German army in North Africa, Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister, suddenly decided to go out and give a speech to the people. The Allied army leaders said, "Okay, the man is happy with the victory and wants to say, 'I won, I'm great, and I didn't win.' Okay, go ahead and say what's on your mind." But the surprise will happen when, in the middle of his speech, he says that the next attack will be on the island of Trento, which is southern Italy. Screw you, what are you saying? It's none of your business. The German army knew the Allied army's plan, and thus the attack itself was ruined before it started. And then this wasn't just an attack. The attack on the island of Trento, if it succeeded, would mean that the next attack would be on Italy to bring down Mussolini. Thus the next step would be the liberation of France and then the entry of Germany itself. Thus you, as a beautiful viewer, can realize that just one word said by Churchill, the British Prime Minister, would have ruined the entire war. It would help Hitler win the war that he was almost about to lose. The lives of hundreds of thousands of Allied soldiers would be lost, as they were on a heavy island. Simply put, the German army would be sitting there waiting for them. It had already learned that the Allies were on a heavy island. Fine, if you are a man, come to the island. I am waiting for you on the island behind the tree over there. The Allied army leaders were sitting, not knowing what to do or how to act. What would they do in the plan that had failed? Anyway, from here to there, they decided to shift the attack from a heavy island to Greece. Germany would not wait on a heavy island. We would leave our heavy island completely and attack Greece. But here, there was a second opinion, which is that Hitler might doubt Churchill's statement. He might imagine that Churchill hadn't made a mistake or anything, and that he intended to deceive him with this information and send him on a heavy island to take Greece. There is no normal person. A wise man would make a mistake and sacrifice information like this. Here the question is, will we attack the heavy ones or Greece? They went back to Churchill, sir, and said, "We are thinking of changing the plan and attacking Greece." Churchill told them, "No, there is no such thing as that. We will attack the heavy ones. We mean we will attack the heavy ones. But the story is, but the matter is no use." Just as we agreed, British intelligence had the body. They brought the body of a young British man who was freshly dead and dressed him in a British officer's uniform. Okay, the subject is easy up to this point, but this officer doesn't need a card. I mean, you tell me, of course. Okay, where is his card? You tell me. Okay, that's easy. British intelligence makes him a card. I tell you, you're right. But if they show him in a military uniform while he's alive, where are they going to get it from? You tell me they photoshopped it. I tell you, in those days there was no Photoshop. Think about it, how do they solve it? How are they going to get a picture of this dead young man in a military uniform while he's alive? The only solution is for them to dress him in the military uniform, have him sit on a chair, hold him down with something, open his eyes, and quickly find a picture of him, a kidnapping picture like that. But, dear citizen, all these attempts ended in miserable failure. It was very clear in the pictures that the young man was dead. It was very clear in the pictures that this was a corpse, not a living human being. Well, what can we do? He told you that we have nothing but to look for anyone who looks like him and is still alive, to dress him in the uniform and take a picture of him. And for sure, among the British people, there is someone who looks like him, right? They say that 40 lookalikes are created. Yes, we want just one of these 40 people to photograph him in an officer's uniform. But here was a bigger problem, which is that you would need a very long time to examine the faces of all the British people. This is a subject that would take months. At that time, there was no artificial intelligence, no internet, and no such thing. But glory be to God, my dear citizen, you really feel that God was facilitating it for the Allies in World War II. At that time, there were American forces on British soil. One of them, an American officer, was in a relationship with a girl who worked in British intelligence. The important thing is that this girl was loved by a third party, the same British intelligence officer who suggested the idea of the dead spy. He focused on this shot. Among the details that they were supposed to prepare for this dead spy, which is that he was in a relationship with a girl, and it is normal for any officer in the world to be in a relationship, love or marry anything. He is a human being after all, so the plan was for them to bring a real picture of a British girl and put it in his pocket with an answer. my love for her, because when the German intelligence reaches his body and they find the love letter and the picture in his pocket, this will be greater evidence that this body is of a real officer, a real person, an ordinary human being who lived his life like anyone else. In addition, the letter that will be in his pocket, his girlfriend will definitely talk to him about the war, and thus this is greater evidence of his identity as an officer. The important thing is the picture of the girl that he put in his pocket. Who was tasked to bring her? The British intelligence officer who loves his colleague from a third party. The first one he thought of bringing her picture is, who is the colleague he loves? In fact, the girl agreed to give him the picture, but on the condition that she knows what he will do with it. Indeed, the British intelligence officer, considering her a colleague in the same agency, told her the details of the operation. Not only that, but he showed her a picture of the body. The girl was shocked because the body had a very strong resemblance to the American officer she was in a relationship with. Indeed, she presented the idea to the British intelligence officer and told him, "This is me. I know an American officer who was an exact copy of him." The next day they brought the officer without telling him about the details of the operation. He was really impressed by the great resemblance between them and realized that they needed to take a few pictures of him to update the data of the foreign officers present in British territory. They took the pictures and made a card for the dead spy in military uniform, and the first problem was solved. The second problem was writing the love letter itself. What would be said in it? Because every word written would reveal a part of the spy's personality, his life as an officer, his emotional life, his social life, and so on. It was natural here that psychology experts would be the ones to write the letter, but British intelligence said no, because if psychology experts were the ones who wrote it, it would be very easy for the psychology experts in German intelligence to discover that the psychology experts in British intelligence were the ones who wrote it. Here, the British intelligence officer who suggested the idea of the dead spy appears again and said, "It's simple. We let the girl whose picture we took be the one to write this love letter." "Okay, Mr. Officer, why this girl?" he said, with all frankness, "because this girl is real, and the American officer whose picture we took is a real officer, and they both really loved each other at one point. So when the girl writes him a letter, she is really writing a letter to her lover, and more importantly, she is really writing a letter to an officer who is fighting the same war that the dead spy was supposed to be fighting. So the details will be very realistic and very real." Okay, and this is the second problem that has been solved. The third problem, he told you that the paper you will write the information on will get wet as soon as it gets wet, and the ink will dissolve in the water and disappear, so the mission will have no meaning. He told you it is simple. We write the information with ink that does not dissolve in water and is insoluble. The answer here was that the Germans would know that the ink is insoluble, and the first question they would ask themselves was why the British Army wrote this particular letter with insoluble ink. So the only answer is that the British Army knew that this officer would drown, and here the German intelligence would know that the matter is up to him, and that is how they saw it. Indeed, the talk was logical. So the assignment was for the English scientists in British intelligence to invent a new type of ink that dissolves in water but does not disappear completely. A small remnant of it remains, explaining the talk. So yes, the water dissolved the ink, but at the same time the water did not have time to dissolve it all, and there remained only a few simple retouches through which the German intelligence could understand these secret letters. What is great? The fourth problem is that we must study very well the direction and speed of the winds in the ocean to ensure that the body will reach the Spanish shores, which were controlled by the German army forces at that time, my dear citizen. Spain was indirectly allied with Hitler at the same time that it was maintaining its relationship with Britain. For example, it sent Hitler forces to help him in his war against the Soviet army, but at the same time it was maintaining British diplomatic representation on Spanish territory. And so the story was told in detail in the episode The World War Cat, if you want to know its story, but also the subject of wind direction and its speed was not difficult for the British Army experts to know this easily. Indeed, a British submarine went out into the ocean and threw the dead spy into the water, and after a while the body actually reached the shores of Spain. Fishermen on the shore saw it, ran to it, and took it to the Spanish authorities. So what should the Spanish authorities do? The first thing they do is inform the British Foreign Office on the basis that the body is that of an English officer. But at the same time, they also informed the German forces present in Spain. They got hold of this. We found the body of an English officer, and in his hand was a leather bag locked with secret numbers and protected with nitric acid. Why is it protected with this acid? So that if someone tried to open it by force, this nitric acid would destroy the papers inside these bags. These bags were famous at the time among the intelligence agencies. Therefore, the information about the bag, as soon as it reached the German intelligence, they went crazy. We have to know what was in this bag by any means. Before the British Army received the bodies, and this is exactly what British intelligence wanted to happen, sir, they wanted German intelligence to open the suitcase, to read the information in it and know that Churchill intended to attack Greece, not a heavy island. You tell me, well, wouldn't nitric acid spoil the papers and German intelligence wouldn't know what was written inside them? I tell you, sir, German intelligence at that time was almost the most powerful intelligence agency in the world, and therefore the idea of opening a suitcase of this kind without nitric acid working was very easy for them, and British intelligence knew this. They knew that German intelligence could open the suitcase with its little finger, but they had to do this nitric acid thing to make German intelligence believe that the matter was real and that the papers inside the suitcase were very secret and very, very dangerous. And you were telling me, well, what's the problem here? Things are going well, just as British intelligence wants. I tell you, the problem was that the German intelligence would dissect the body of the dead spy, and as soon as they dissect it, they will know that he did not die from drowning. They will know that he died before he went into the water. Therefore, a detail like this is enough to make the German intelligence doubt the whole matter. And, my dear citizen, the word doubt in the intelligence agencies means that the matter is ruined. The mere suspicion is enough to turn the tables on the entire British intelligence. Here, the British intelligence had to ensure that no one in Spain would explain it, but how would they do that, especially since the German intelligence is the one who would honor us? The matter here had two solutions. The first is that the beach for the Spanish that we would choose for the dead spy to reach would be a beach far from the concentration of German forces. Therefore, the one who would deal with the dead spy would be the Spanish police, even if this dealing was by orders from the German forces. The important thing is that the one who would supervise the dead spy directly is the Spanish police. The second solution is that our men in Spain recruit someone from the Spanish police close to the beach to which the dead spy would reach. Even if the autopsy was done, it would be done under the supervision of our men, not the German intelligence men. Therefore, we are the ones who will bear the result of the autopsy. Where will the surprise happen, my dear citizen? The surprise will happen when the German intelligence sends a forensic doctor to dissect the body, and not just any doctor. He was the head of the anatomy department at the University of Madrid. But there is still no problem as long as we are the warehouses located on this beach. The Spanish police themselves are the ones who will deal with the forensic doctor. The Spanish intelligence officer who was present at the autopsy was like he was tired of the sight and his stomach hurt, so he started yelling at the forensic doctor and told him you don't have to dissect him to know that he drowned. Don't disgust us, nor does he just have a stomachache and that's it. And indeed the doctor left with his tools, and the body of the dead spy was handed over to the British Army to be shipped to England and buried there. But here is an important question. Where is the bag that was handcuffed in his hand? Where? The bag that contained the papers, the bag of Mr. Citizen, was the first thing to be snatched from his hand and flew to the desk of the commander of the Nazi forces in Spain even before the autopsy was completed. You are telling me that the British Army representative had also arrived to receive the body. I am telling you that the British Army representative deliberately delayed his arrival to ensure that the bag was taken from the body and went to the desk of the commander of the Nazi forces. As I told you, the entire mission depended on these papers reaching German intelligence. As soon as the British Army representative arrived and discovered that the bag was not with the body, he started screaming, "Where is the bag? It contains secret information. I gave him the bag. Where is it? I hold you fully responsible." Of course, all the fuss he made was intentional in order to reach German intelligence and increase their conviction of the importance of the information. Well, all these problems were solved, but there remained the most important and dangerous problem, which is how Hantax would read the information in it, because since Spain is a country shared by both sides, Britain and Germany of course, just as it facilitated the bag's arrival to German intelligence, it is obligated to return the bag to British intelligence, especially since when the Spanish police handed the bag over to German intelligence, this was a diplomatic and military mistake, and everything was wrong. It should not have been revealed that the bag went to German intelligence in the first place. Therefore, German intelligence will be careful not to reveal that anyone opened the bag, just as it arrived with the body, just as it will be returned to the British Army, just so we do not provoke the Spanish police. Here, British intelligence had to confirm whether German intelligence opened the bag or not, so that they know whether the information reached them or not. And thus they can also determine whether they are the ones who came to Gaul Island or Greece. Well, what should we do? What should we do? He told you it's simple. We put an eyelash inside the secret letter, and if the letter opens, the eyelash will fall out. And thus we know that the bag and the letter it opened and the Germans were fooled. If the eyelash had remained in its place, then the bag would not have been opened. Consequently, we would have changed the entire attack plan. The surprise, my dear citizen, was that the eyelash disappeared. This means that the German intelligence opened the bag, read the letter, and confirmed that Britain would emigrate to Greece. Germany played the sweet bait here. The bag was actually returned to British intelligence as it was, as if no one had opened it. On July 10, 1943, after British intelligence monitored the transfer of German forces from the island of Takalia to Greece to repel the British attack, which we are supposed to know from the letter of the dead spy, Hitler was surprised that the British and American armies were attacking the island of Takalia, which had almost no German forces. Of course, there were a few German forces there, but they were small, my dear citizen. Small forces that could not confront the American and British armies, which attacked with all their might and took control of the island of Takalia. Their second step, as we said, was Italy, which was Mussolini was removed from power and arrested while trying to escape to Switzerland in the back of a transport truck with his lover, Chiara Petacci. He rode him in the back of a transport truck so that no one would recognize them after the driver agreed to take them across the Swiss border. Imagine the terrifying Italian Prime Minister Benito Mussolini escaping in the back of a transport truck. You see, time, I wish it ended like this. In the middle of the road, the driver of the transport truck stops and raises his weapon at them, telling them that he arrested them in the name of the Italian people. They are handed over to the revolutionaries, who execute them in the old Roman way, which is by hanging them by their feet at a gas station and continuing to beat them until they died. A terrifying scene. The biggest irony is that only 2 days later, Hitler also sets himself on fire with his lover Eva Braun, and the story of Hitler and Mussolini and the horror that the world experienced because of them ends. The operation, Dead Spy or Minced Meat, was the name of the operation in British intelligence, one of the most important intelligence operations that ended World War II in favor of the Allies, and a new world was formed, ruled by the United States of America. Until today, the operation of the Dead Spy was the biggest proof that power has no value without the mind. It was the biggest proof that no matter how strong your armies and military habits are, the intelligence services will remain at the top of the list of armed battles and Cold Wars. There are many episodes about World War spies on the channel and the Facebook page. If you like to hear the stories of these great people, we have arranged the episodes in lists for you so that you can easily reach the topics you like. For example, you will find a list of World War spies, a list of Egyptian